Hello everyone. Today a short video to talk about metabolic disorders and mental disorders. We are going to look a bit at this book that I recommend by Dr. Georgia Ede, who is a metabolic psychiatrist using an interesting approach to really reduce carbs. It's a quite complete book. We can draw parallels with dry fasting. That is somewhat the objective of this video, to grasp this style of nutrition she discusses, which I find very compelling. Naturally, we will delve into somewhat ketogenic diets, but not exclusively. She mentions a bit about paleo, things like that. But generally, she insists on reducing carbs, which create many problems we will detail a bit. So, we say today that metabolic disorders, mental disorders, are completely different illnesses. But what if I told you they have a common root? That root is the brain's energy metabolism. Therefore, we observe today that many mental health issues, such as depressions and anxiety disorders, bipolar disorders, even in children. I have had cases in consultation, very agitated children, whom we struggle to manage in the consultation room. Consequently, there are definitely questions to consider regarding carbohydrates. And then the results show that when we remove that, we have a really big improvement. The brain accounts for roughly 2% of the total body weight, give or take. It consumes about 25% of the total energy. So what does it need? It needs quality proteins to nourish all the neurotransmitters, the GABA, the serotonin, etc. It needs stable fat for the neuronal membranes. It needs a constant energy, very clean. So, the brain today, if we take back the usual classic food pyramid of what is proposed to us, it is mainly refined carbohydrates, sugar for the most part. It's completely unstable energy. The result of that, what does it give? All the diseases of stimulation we know, inflammation of bad grade, classic inflammation, oxidative stress, a resulting dysfunction in the neurotransmitters. Moreover, the brain suffers from a lack of functional energy. Even when overeating occurs, there remains an energy deficit. So the ketogenic, well conducted, if we conduct it well, will correct these metabolic disorders a bit. And then the ketogenic diet is based on a very simple principle. Thus, sufficient protein intake to achieve a feeling of fullness. Very few carbohydrates, I would not say more than 20 grams. We can increase it a little for people who exercise. We can go a little higher during the day. Fats of quality as a source of energy. We are no longer afraid of butter. We are no longer afraid to eat, like me, about 6 eggs. In any case, 4 to 6 eggs per day, there is no problem. And there is no worry with that. Those stories about cholesterol that are not at all worrying. If you have an LDL cholesterol level too high, there is no issue with that. Intake of good micronutrients. And then, once we have added all that, we slightly force the brain to use those famous ketone bodies, which are also the principle of fasting. Later on, we will finish the listing. I am referring to the ketogenic diet. These ketone bodies supply stable energy. You will no longer experience daytime fatigue. You possess clean, energetic fuel. It is fat burning, so you don't have energy crashes, insulin spikes that rise and fall, blood sugar that fluctuates, which gives you fatigue. You will sleep after the meal. All that is finished. On keto, you no longer have all that. So, stable energy, a reduction of brain inflammation, an improvement of the efficiency of the mitochondria. We really stabilize the chemistry of the brain.
If you read this book, you understand a bit all these links, but here I summarize a bit in my own way.
When the brain finally receives appropriate energy, symptoms have the potential to get better.
This is not sorcery, it is pure physiology. Ketone bodies are a high energy fuel. I know people who have been on a ketogenic diet for 15 years.
I am a beginner in the ketogenic diet. I do not have a ketone sensor. I do not have a glucose sensor. I do not really know where I stand. I could start a dry fast very quickly without too much preparation, because that is the point of doing keto. In any case, I would say before dry fasting and after dry fasting, it is really about working with that.
Afterwards, if we are okay with that, if we want to continue with that, it's okay. You must inform yourself well. You have to look at the cooking recipes.
It requires discipline. It is not straightforward.
When you are accustomed to consuming large amounts of carbohydrates, deciding now to eliminate them and function using an alternative fuel source demands considerable effort. It is not that easy.
For people who are addicted to sugar, it will create issues. It is not that simple.
The patients I see in my practice who succeed in adhering to this, I commend them. The positive results are evident.
Now we will be told, yes, but not everyone can do keto. That is true. There is only a small subset of people, perhaps 2%, who carry the specific genetic marker, the ApoE4, which makes them quite intolerant to fats.
But afterwards, we can absolutely do an intelligent keto where we are not obliged to stuff ourselves with fat.
As long as you remove the carbohydrates and you are not necessarily obliged to bring in fat, then we will have to see how it works. But we can do something low in fat, and then the 4 APOs can function more or less well. That remains to be seen. It's for each person to see over 6 months how they handle it, if they can keep it up, and if they are okay with it, then sure. Therefore, metabolic psychiatry is a field of practice for this particular physician. It means that the brain is suffering from depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, or we are dealing with cognitive impairments. We have mood swings. Often these issues, if we analyze the people behind them, we often see that there is inflammation, there are energy deficits in the person, there's a clear carb dependency. Needing 4 carb doses daily means there's a problem. Switching to this EGN allows for immediate emotional stabilization, to have better mental clarity. That's what we hear at the second visit. In consultation, it's immediate mental clarity. I feel better.
I have more energy. I sleep better. Everything is improving.
It remains a regimen that is certainly worth our interest. If we are a little clever and we do nutrition, the naturals,
we have to look into it, practice it, understand it, see people doing it,
and then adapt with our naturopathy knowledge. Is it sustainable, the foods, looking at recipes? It takes research. It's not that easy to start on a keto diet. Then we can be flexible. We can bring back some carbs. That's why we need some physical activity to burn those carbs. So that's what I do more or less. I have quite regular physical activity. So there you go. It goes like that. I can have a little bit of carbs without too much, without any excess. There you go. Of course, I have banned the classic things, white breads, everything that is carbohydrates. There you go. I no longer eat pasta, no more bread, no more rice, things like that.
All of that has been taken out.
What I allow myself is dark chocolate sometimes, things like that. How did I want to say it?
Fruits, things like that, very low carbohydrate foods, and then foods that are unprocessed. There you go.
Afterwards, well, from time to time you are abroad in a hotel, you eat something sweet, not much is going to happen. But there you go. You have to understand the logic. You must not store carbohydrate foods at home. It's simple. There you go. So the keto idea is we don't treat symptoms. This is always repeated. We must always improve the physiological, metabolic terrain of the brain. Therefore, properly fueling the brain with proteins and fats is crucial. The amino acids, the peinine, serotonin, and GABA are all
neurotransmitters that optimize the brain's neuronal functions. You also have in ketosis BDNF, which you speed up a lot with dry fasting, less on keto, but especially with dry fasting. That is why combining the ketogenic approach with dry fasting results in an extremely interesting and potent combination, thus providing the brain with adequate nourishment via amino acids. And fat will help stabilize mood, ensure good motivation, and maintain concentration to maintain healthy cholesterol levels, which are indispensable for brain function, for neuronal membranes, for myelin, and for the myelin sheaths precisely. Very important. Furthermore, the keto diet is not about restriction. You eat until satiety. I personally consume golpons, which amounts to 400 grams of beef. I eat quite a lot. Of chicken, of meat, it's very heavy. We can't say I'm on a calorie restriction. I measure absolutely nothing, but I eat, I can assure you. It is therefore a diet, a system of targeted nutrition that will really improve the whole general nervous system. The connection with dry fasting is that the ketogenic diet thoroughly prepares the foundation, while dry fasting amplifies that signal. Dry fasting will accelerate the entry into ketosis, that's clear. It will have a very inflammation reducing effect. It will have an effect. It creates a huge amount of stem cells when coming out of dry fasting, which you do not necessarily achieve in ketosis. You get the strong anti-inflammatory and anti-infectious effects present in dry fasting, which are absent in the ketogenic diet. But the two methods complement each other, so you compel with dry fasting to optimize energy, you get autophagy entering at its maximum cellular cleaning from dry fasting.
And then the recalibration process for new cells
of new fuel with dry fasting, and then keto will nourish the brain, and then dry fasting resets the body, all functions, it regenerates the systems, the organs overall. Therefore, this combination is intelligent and not extreme. It is genuinely interesting to combine both practices, at least to engage in both. I would say short dry fast sometimes, and then one long dry fast per year, or even two. And if there are pathologies, then we need precise follow-up. These are cures with a spacing that we must evaluate, that we must look at. If people have pathologies, it is another way of practicing. You must see the people, you must understand their problems, find the causes of the problems, and then go juggle with food supplements, plants, mushrooms, whatever. By combining dry fasting and the keto diet, you attain the highest level of metabolic flexibility. You can immediately start dry fasting. You are already in ketosis, so it's child's play. You no longer need to spend months and months preparing, purging your liver, purging your kidneys, purging this, purging that. That's all over. You are ready. So you are already in ketosis. After 3 months of ketosis, people with digestive issues see them disappear. It is finished. So when you no longer have digestive problems, it means it is working well. We can monitor it with measuring devices. There you go, people returning in perfect health. And then you go straight into dry fasting afterward. It is very easy to do. So dry fasting allows for a reduction in carbohydrate dependence associated with the keto diet, better mitochondrial efficiency, I said, a state of enhanced mental and energetic stability. And the keto diet serves as the foundation for daily living, particularly within the context of a low carbohydrate, low carb lifestyle. And dry fasting is a punctual tool, I would say a punctual reset tool. We nourish the brain well, we nourish our body well, and then we let the body optimize. So metabolic and mental disorders are not inevitable fates. Once we grasp that the brain functions as a metabolic organ, the energy available dictates the mental chemistry. Nutrition can be a therapeutic lever, then everything changes. Thus, the keto diet, which draws inspiration from this woman, Georgia Ede,
when intelligently paired with dry fasting, becomes a very interesting strategy, one of the most powerful to truly support the brain and metabolism. So it is not a dogma, but it is based on observations, it is biology.
That was all for today. See you soon. Bye bye.